Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that were never supposed to be told, disappearances, forgotten places, and unexplained events, make sure to subscribe to the Hollow Ledger. Leave a like if the unknown excites you, and comment your theory below, because sometimes your guess might be closer to the truth than you think. The building had 42 floors, no more, no less. Marcus knew that because he worked on the 27th, cursed to climb to the 15th every fire drill, and once made out with someone on the 42nd during the Christmas party of 2019. Gray, slow-dying Tuesday, the kind that forgets its own name. The panel lit up in that familiar sterile glow. Floors 1 through 42, evenly spaced, slightly sticky to the touch because cleaning was a myth. It sat slightly apart from the others, nestled in the bottom corner like a mistake that no one dared to correct, like it hadn't been touched in years, or ever. There was time to pretend he hadn't seen it, maybe even file an IT ticket to report a phantom button, whatever that would entail. It wasn't there yesterday, he was sure of it. He was a man of routine, spreadsheets, and boring confidence. This wasn't just weird, this was wrong. But then, just as he was about to hit 27, he noticed it. Marcus had spilled coffee on his shirt, missed the A15 elevator, and received an all-staff email reminding everyone to smile more, as if happiness could be summoned like a pizza. He had mapped this place out like a bored cartographer with no mountains left to name. There were no secrets in this building. That's why the button shouldn't have existed. It was a Tuesday. For a moment, the elevator didn't even hum. Maybe even the door open button, that eternal placebo, was now dead weight. He stepped into the elevator alone, as if the power grid blinked at him. Then, silence. And then, without ceremony, the elevator began to move. A button, not labeled, no number, no light. He leaned in. It looked ... dusty. Marcus stared. His thumb hovered over it. The doors hadn't closed yet, not because it was dangerous, but because it was irreversible. But he pressed it. The walls, if you could call them that, stretched endlessly in both directions. But they weren't walls. They were mirrors. Not perfect reflections, more like echoes of reflections. His image moved a second too late, smiled when he didn't, blinked twice when he only blinked once. Click, no ding, no movement. The floor number display above the doors stayed blank. Then the lights flickered. Not dramatically, no horror movies, just a tiny pulse. Damn, that made no sense. He was on the ground floor already, like they were always there, but he was only now allowed to hear them. He reached for the emergency button. It didn't respond. Neither did any of the other floor buttons. Then the display changed. 3 rectangles. Not numbers, not letters. Marcus blinked. Maybe the panel was broken. Maybe this was some maintenance glitch. The elevator stopped. The doors opened, and what lay beyond them was not a floor he had ever seen. No carpet, no buzzing, fluorescent lights, no reception desk or office plants dying under bad ventilation. Just fog. Thick, still fog that didn't roll or dance, but simply hung in the air like a memory that refused to fade. He didn't step out immediately. Something deep in his bones, something pre-verbal, told him not to. Still, curiosity is a quiet god, and Marcus was devout. He stepped out. The floor was smooth, not concrete, not tile, just smooth, like polished bone. There was no ceiling. The elevator behind him stayed open. He didn't get tired. The floor never changed. And then he heard it. Footsteps. Not approaching, not receding. Just ... happening. Marcus read a voice said, not from behind or ahead, but from inside his own ears. He turned. No one. I shouldn't be here, he muttered. Incorrect, the voice replied. You pressed the button. I didn't mean to. All decisions are meaning. You arrived. You were seen. The fog shifted, forming a corridor, not a real one. Just the impression of one, like an idea you could walk into. He backed up toward the elevator. Its doors remained open, waiting, like a trap with patience. And then the button inside disappeared. Just ... vanished. In its place was a small hole, and from that hole, something was watching. Marcus ran. Not back, not forward. He just ran. The space didn't stop him. The mirrors didn't end. But every few steps, he saw it. Another elevator, same design, same button, and every one of them had been pressed, and every one of them was open, and none of them had anyone inside. That's when it hit him. This wasn't a place. It was a collection of choices, of regrets, of people who had pressed the button and never read the terms and conditions. He stopped running. He turned, and the elevator behind him had closed. There was no call button, just a sign on the mirror beside him now. In etched, trembling letters, "The elevator does not forget." The corridor didn't lead anywhere. It just bent, lazily, like a thought trying to remember itself. Marcus walked, because standing still felt worse. His footsteps made no sound. Not silence, just absence. Like silence itself had been deleted. The mirrors continued, still delayed, still misbehaving. In one of them, he caught sight of himself blinking twice, rapidly even though his eyes hadn't moved. Another showed him smiling. Then one mirror showed him being hugged by someone he couldn't remember but almost loved. They weren't reflections. They were versions. A waiting area. And they were watching him back. Eventually, the corridor opened not into a room, but into... It looked like every waiting room in every bad dream. Beige chairs that had never been sat in. Magazines from no recognizable year. A clock on the wall that had no hands but still ticked. The air smelled like dust and déjà vu. A small table stood in the center, covered in forms. Paperwork. Pens that didn't write. Clipboards with sections labeled Origin Code and Perception Integrity. Marcus leaned over and saw his own name on the top form. The figure standing behind the front desk wore a sharp, black suit, perfectly tailored. No dust, no wrinkle, no texture. The kind of black that eats light. Read. Marcus J. Data. First interruption. Unfixed last verified state. Highly permeable. He dropped the clipboard. "Please take a seat," said a voice. It was the first time he saw someone but not something. The figure had no face. Just ... Smooth skin, like wax left unfinished. "Where am I?" Marcus asked. "You are at floor," the figure said. "This is your pre-processing area." Processing for what? For assimilation, rejection, or partial persistence. Marcus took a step back. "Look, I don't know what kind of dream this is, or if I hit my head in the elevator or something. There was no impact. You were conscious. You made a choice. It was just a button. There are no just buttons." A door appeared on the far side of the room. Not opened, not built. It simply came into being, like an idea forming The figure gestured. "Others have pressed the button," the faceless one said. "Most do not notice it. You did. That makes you eligible." "For what?" The figure tilted its head slightly. "Relevant." The door opened on its own. Beyond it was a hallway of doors, hundreds, thousands, stacked in layers like the spine of some impossible building. Every door had a name. He passed doors labeled Imar Her De Al A A A A A A A A U. Aaron Petrov Zuriokova. Some doors were pulsing softly, as if breathing. Some had deep scratches, like something inside had tried to stay in or get out. He reached one with his name. Marcus read below it, in smaller letters. "Condition open." He hesitated, but it was no longer coming from the front desk. It was coming from inside the door. He opened it. It wasn't a room. It was ... him. Marcus at 5, crying over a broken toy. Marcus at 13, staring at a blood-stained baseball bat. Marcus at 22, drunk in a bathtub, mumbling, "I don't want to be this person." Marcus last week, Googling, "Am I invisible to people or just boring?" Marcus yesterday, pressing the button. It was all there. The constellation of being, but then the images shifted. Marcus, dying at age 40. Marcus, never born. His name a typo in a hospital record. Marcus, a woman, standing in a courthouse, screaming about mirrors. Marcus, laughing, as the building collapsed around him. He stepped back. "These are timelines," he whispered. "They are potential echoes," said the faceless voice, now walking beside him. "How many of these exist?" "Only as many as can fit inside your capacity." "What happens if I look at one for too long?" "You collapse into it." Marcus backed away, but the image of him screaming in the bathtub lingered in his mind. "I want to go back," he said. "To the elevator, to the office. I want to leave." "You're still thinking in terms of location," the voice said, almost amused. "You're not in a place, Marcus. You're in an abstraction. You're in a zone that exists to measure the sharpness of self." "I didn't sign up for this." "No," the figure agreed. You pressed the button. Suddenly, the mirrors returned. Not in the corridor this time, but in the air. Floating, rotating slowly, like drones with opinions. They began to reflect not Marcus, but others. A woman in a hospital gown, walking through flames. A child writing equations on the ceiling. An old man whispering to a goat with human eyes. Each of them noticed Marcus. Each of them looked at him like he was the intruder. Marcus asked. Parallel initiates, the voice said. People who also pressed the button. Not all at once. Not in your world, but close enough. Close enough for what? To touch. One of the mirrors began to hum. The glass rippled. A hand came through. Marcus didn't scream. He couldn't. His lungs had been muted by wonder and terror. The hand reached for his face. Its touch was ice and memory. And then the mirror shattered. The pieces fell. Not down but up, scattering into nothing. The corridor shook. An alarm not sound, but feeling ripped through the space. Unauthorized timeline convergence detected, said a mechanical voice from nowhere. The faceless figure snapped its neck toward the broken mirror. You are becoming, the voice paused. Recognizable. What does that mean? Marcus yelled. It means you're bleeding into too many selves at once. To who? To the system. A crease in reality. And suddenly the floor was above him, and he was falling sideways into a room he hadn't seen. Marcus turned to run, but the corridor folded. Not like a hallway, like a page. He landed hard, and when he stood, the room was dark. Not just an absence of light, dark in concept. A room designed not to be perceived. Yet he stood within it. At the center, a single chair. On it, a device. Old, rusting, and yet it hummed with a sound older than sound. The voice returned, now fainter. Take the device. Marcus, the next phase is ready. He stepped forward, and the elevator behind him, once vanished, now stood waiting again. Its doors open, but now it wasn't empty. Inside was someone else, looking exactly like him, and smiling. The man in the elevator looked exactly like Marcus, but older, wiser, or maybe just more. Broken. His smile was tired, not friendly, not sinister, just inevitable. Marcus froze at the threshold. The chair behind him hummed louder, impatient. The elevator stood open, silent. I remember being you, the man said. His voice was dry, like paper that had learned to speak. Marcus shook his head. You're not me. The man tilted his head, amused. That's what I said, too. He stepped out. Marcus stepped back. Or the concept of space was forgetting how to function. But the room, if it could still be called that, was smaller now. Or the walls were closer. The other Marcus moved slowly, deliberately. Not threatening, but terrifying in his calm. You think you're the first? He said. That's adorable. What are you? The smile faded. I'm what's left. He reached into his coat and pulled out a photo. Marcus stared. It was him, standing in a hallway filled with smoke, holding a child's hand. I've never seen this, he whispered. You haven't, but you will, or you won't. Doesn't matter now. Behind the photo, there was writing. Initiate trace mu ionzi delta. Slated for echo. Marcus looked up. What does that mean? You're a pattern? A possibility. And you're leaking. The other Marcus sighed. You're not a person anymore? Leaking into them. He pointed to the far wall. A curtain of light fell away. Behind it was ... a display. A vast wall of profiles. Thousands. Maybe millions. He expected pain. A flash. A burn. A scream dragged out of his spine. But when Marcus pressed the kill switch, there was only quiet. A quiet so deep it replaced his heartbeat. Then the room peeled away. Not exploded. Not collapsed. Just ... peeled. Like wallpaper made of memory. And beneath it wasn't darkness. It was everything. A spiral of moments, spinning slow and wide like a galaxy made of broken clocks. Each orbit held a piece of him. The day he lied about love. The second he almost stepped into traffic. The hour he stared too long at the mirror, wondering if his reflection was delayed for a reason. He floated, or fell. When the motion stopped, he stood in a room. The paradox room. It didn't look like much. A single bulb overhead. No source. No shadow. White walls. A floor that reflected nothing. And a chair. Sitting in it, Marcus. But not the version from before. This one was young. Maybe 16. Acne. Headphones. That dumb hoodie from high school. He was playing a game on his phone. He didn't look up. The screen on the phone flickered. Not a game. Security footage. Hey, Marcus said. The boy didn't answer. Marcus stepped closer. An elevator. The button. The boy smiled. You're just a story I haven't heard yet, he said, without looking up. Marcus felt cold. Who are you? Older. beard, tired eyes. I'm the reason you pressed it. And suddenly, the room shifted. I couldn't handle it. Now he was in a kitchen, late at night. The fridge buzzed. A woman, his mother, stood by the sink, crying quietly into her palm. Why'd you stop talking to her? A voice asked. He turned. Another Marcus. Why did you cut her off after the funeral? Marcus opened his mouth. You didn't try. The room shifted again. He was 7, hiding in a closet. Don't make noise, someone whispered. Daddy's mad again. A hand gripped his. Small, trembling. A girl he didn't remember her. Who was she? He asked. No one answered. The room shifted again. This time, it wasn't a room. It was a table. And on it, a book. The cover read, Possible Marcuses, the timeline review. He flipped it open, page after page. Each entry began the same. Marcus Reed, age X, in scenario Y, made decision Z. Some entries ended with ceased, reflected, fragmented. He read one. Age 31, met Isabella in corridor 17, chose to run status. Another, age 28, chose not to press the button. Lived, died in obscurity. Status, ignored. One caught his eye. Age 33, chose to confront the architect. Status, arrest. Partially remembered. The architect, he whispered. The book flipped itself to a page with no text. Just a symbol, a circle, a line through it. Then a question mark. Then, door initiated. A wall in the room split open. Behind it, a hallway made of questions. Literally, each tile was a question he had once asked himself. What if I had said something? Did she actually love me? Am I just background? What happens after we die? Why do I always feel like something's watching? He stepped carefully. Each question cracked a little under his feet. The hallway ended in a vast, circular chamber. In its center was a pedestal. On it, a blueprint, labeled Elevator Protocol Version. Infinite, he approached. The blueprint wasn't paper. It was light, shifting diagrams, changing layouts, elevators shaped like spirals, staircases, trapdoors, thoughts, labels read, level regret loop, level denial, maintenance, level, mirror collapse, and finally, Marcus touched it. A voice responded, user recognized, access granted. The room fell away, and he was inside a glass box, drifting in space, not outer space, inner space. Below him were every elevator he had seen, every person who had pressed the button, each trapped in their own version of floor, each looping, each unraveling. And then, he saw it. At the center of this universe, a single, black cube, pulsing, feeding, observing, a presence wrapped around his thoughts. It spoke without words, and yet it said, "You are the observer and the observed. Do you understand?" Marcus couldn't move. You are not a glitch. You are the test. Do you consent to final paradox entry? He couldn't speak, but he thought, yes. The cube opened, and inside it was him, sleeping, hooked to wires, being watched by a wall of screens, a lab white coats, charts labeled, sentient convergence rate, echoed dissolution index, reality, adhesion stability. One doctor looked up, saw Marcus, screamed. Everything shattered. He woke up in an elevator, sweating. Alone, the button panel glowed. 1242. But above the floor count, a message. Thank you for participating in Paradox Trial 7. Your data is appreciated. And below it, final status, pending C. The elevator chimed. Ding! The doors opened. A familiar hallway. His office. Coffee machine, humming. Paperwork on his desk. People walking by. Normal, real, safe. Until he saw her, Isabella, by the window, looking directly at him, and slowly shaking her head. She shook her head slowly. Not a warning, not a threat. Something worse. A farewell. Marcus blinked. She was gone. The hallway bustled as if nothing had happened. His name was still on his office door. His coffee mug still had that tiny crack near the rim. He sat down at his desk, stared at the monitor. The screen was blank. Not black. Blank. Not even powered off. Just unprogrammed. He moved the mouse. Nothing. Typed. Nothing. When he stood up, no one looked at him. He walked past 5 coworkers. No eye contact. He tapped one on the shoulder. The man didn't even flinch. Another. Nothing. Marcus screamed. Nothing. Not silence. Something worse. It opened immediately, before he pressed anything. He stepped inside. There were no buttons now, only a screen. It displayed one word. Review. The elevator descended, or maybe ascended. He couldn't tell. The air grew warmer, then cold. Then time lost interest in moving forward. When the doors opened, he stood in the theater. Rows and rows of empty seats. A single projector flickered on, casting light on the screen. It began to play. Not a film, not even images. Memories. His first lie. His first failure. The thing he said to his father before the heart attack. The joke he made at a funeral. The night he Googled, "What if none of this is real?" Then static. And something new appeared. Marcus, killing someone. It wasn't real. He had never. But a screen didn't care. It played what it wanted. Him, drowning a child. Him, starting a fire. Him, smiling in a room full of corpses. "No," he whispered. "That's not me." A voice behind him. "Isn't it?" He turned. No one. The projector screen shifted again, now showing others. People from his dreams. People he'd passed on the street and forgotten. Each one pressing the button. Each one disappearing. Each one ceasing. A voice, robotic and soft, filled the theater. Personhood is probabilistic. Identity is a symptom. You are being unwritten. Marcus stood up. The projector stopped. A spotlight fell on him. He was alone, but someone began to clap. Slow, mocking. The man from before. The one in the elevator. The older Marcus. The fractured self. He walked down the aisle toward him. Clap, clap, clap. "You thought this was about choices?" the man said. "You were a test case. A good one. But in the end, you're just data." "It's not." "No. It's about structure. I'm a person." "You were." The man stopped inches from him. "You were Marcus Reed. Then you pressed the button. Now you are ... undefined." Marcus grabbed him. "Then give it back." "My life. My name." The man smiled. "Ask them." He pointed. The seats were no longer empty. They were filled. Rows and rows of faceless figures. Each one watching. Each one recording. Each one wearing a badge. System observer, existence, validation unit. The lights dimmed. A screen behind Marcus lit up. His profile appeared. Subject. Marcus read status. Corrupted SELF loop. Determination. To be erased. "No," Marcus said. He turned to the crowd. "I remember who I am. I exist. I choose." No one moved, but the screen updated. Protest. Logged final status. Obsolete. The theater dissolved. Now he was in a hospital room. Machines beeped softly. A body lay on the bed. He's unmoving. A nurse walked in, checked a clipboard, shook her head, and whispered, "No family." Marcus screamed at her, waved his arms. Nothing. He watched his own face. Peaceful. Empty. Then a man in a lab coat entered, wrote something on the chart. Subject, M. Reed. Status, cause, undefined neural overload. The man turned toward Marcus and smiled. It was the faceless figure from floor, only now he had a face. Marcus says. He leaned in and said, "You live, but only just enough to notice." That was the real error. The machines flatlined. Marcus turned. Darkness. Again. Not black. Just ... no. Then, a spark. A whisper. Isabella's voice. "Let go." It hurt. He tried again. It burned. He screamed. And then, silence. Marcus Reed never existed. There was no employee record. No apartment. No mother. No death. No trace. Only an empty elevator. One button. No label. Still waiting for the next one. Curious enough to press it.